I used to believe that if a person wanted to get inside your house, they needed a way through the physical world. A spare key under a plant pot, a window left slightly open, a weak back door, a lock that could be forced. That was how I understood danger. Danger had footsteps. Danger had a shadow. Danger had weight. But I was wrong. The most terrifying intruder I ever encountered never touched my front door. He never broke a window. He never stood outside my house in the rain wearing a hood. He never left muddy footprints on the carpet or fingerprints on the glass. He came in through the things I had bought to feel safe. The baby monitor, the smart thermostat, the voice assistant, the doorbell camera, the lights. All those little conveniences I had welcomed into my home without thinking. And by the time I realized someone was inside, he already knew my routine better than my own family did. My name is Emily Hartwell. At the time this happened, I was 32 years old, living in a small, semi-detached house in a quiet village just outside York, in North Yorkshire. It was the kind of place people romanticize when they talk about English countryside living. Narrow lanes lined with hedges, old stone cottages, a little parish church with moss on the gravestones, and fields that turned silver in the morning mist. My husband Daniel worked as a secondary school history teacher in York. I worked from home as a freelance editor, which meant I spent long hours alone in the house, usually with a cup of tea, going cold beside my laptop. We had moved there because we wanted peace. After years of renting cramped flats in Leeds, the house felt like a dream. It had 3 bedrooms, a small garden, a fireplace we barely used, and a nursery painted in soft cream, because we didn't want to know the baby's gender before birth. When our daughter Lily was born, everything changed. Not in the poetic way people say it changes. It changed in the raw, sleepless, frightening way. Lily was tiny, too tiny, in my mind, though the midwife kept telling me she was perfectly healthy. I checked her breathing constantly. I woke at the smallest sound. I became obsessed with making sure the house was warm enough, quiet enough, safe enough. That was when Daniel suggested we set up a few smart devices. Just to make things easier, he said one night while I was standing over Lily's cot for the 5th time in an hour. We bought a smart baby monitor with night vision and 2-way audio, a smart thermostat so the nursery temperature stayed steady, a voice assistant for lullabies and reminders, a smart doorbell camera because Daniel sometimes came home late from school events, and I hated opening the door after dark. At first I loved them. The baby monitor sat beside our bed, glowing softly through the night. I could see Lily sleeping without getting up every few minutes. The thermostat kept the nursery at the perfect temperature. The doorbell camera showed me when parcels arrived. The voice assistant played white noise when Lily cried. It felt modern, safe, controlled. I remember telling my mother, "Honestly, Mom, I don't know how people had babies before all this." She laughed and said, "We used our ears, darling." I should have listened to her. The first strange thing happened in late November, on a night so cold the windows had fogged from the inside. Daniel had gone to bed early because he had parents' evening the next day. I stayed up in the living room, editing a manuscript and drinking peppermint tea. Lily was asleep upstairs in the nursery. At around 11:40 p.m., the thermostat notification popped up on my phone. Nursery temperature changed to 16 degrees Celsius. I frowned. The nursery was supposed to stay at 21 degrees Celsius. I opened the app and changed it back. A few seconds later, it dropped again. 16 degrees Celsius. I thought the app had frozen, so I closed it and reopened it. Still 16. I went upstairs, annoyed but not afraid. The nursery was cold enough that I felt it before I reached the cot. Lily was still asleep, wrapped in her sleep sack, her little mouth open. I touched her cheek. It was cool. I immediately lifted her and held her against my chest. "Stupid thing," I whispered, glaring at the thermostat on the wall. I changed the setting manually. The heat came back on with a soft click. That should have been the end of it. But the next night, it happened again. This time, I woke at 2:13 a.m. because the baby monitor made a clicking sound. Not a beep, not static. A click. Like someone tapping a fingernail against the microphone. I opened my eyes and looked at the screen. The nursery appeared in green night vision. Lily was asleep. The mobile above her cot turned slowly, though I didn't remember switching it on. Then the thermostat notification appeared on my phone. Nursery temperature changed to 16 degrees Celsius. I sat up. Daniel stirred beside me. "What is it?" "The heating's gone down again." He groaned and rubbed his face. "I'll check it in the morning." I was about to get out of bed when the monitor speaker crackled. At first, I thought it was interference. Then a voice whispered, very softly, "Cold little Lily?" I stopped breathing. Daniel sat up instantly. "What was that?" I couldn't answer. The monitor screen still showed Lily asleep. The nursery was still. The voice came again, almost amused. "Cold little Lily." Daniel jumped out of bed and ran across the landing. I followed, my legs shaking so badly I nearly fell. When we burst into the nursery, Lily woke and started crying. The room was freezing. The thermostat screen showed 16 degrees Celsius. There was no one there. The window was locked. The curtains were still. The cot was untouched. Daniel grabbed the baby monitor camera from the shelf and unplugged it. "That's it," he said. "We're not using this thing tonight." We took Lily into our bedroom and kept her between us until morning. Neither of us slept. The next day, Daniel tried to be rational. He said someone nearby might have accidentally connected to the monitor. He said devices sometimes picked up strange signals. He said the thermostat was probably faulty. But I could tell he was shaken. He called the baby monitor company. They told him to change the password, reset the device, update the software, and enable extra security on the account. He did all of it. He also changed the Wi-Fi password, reset the thermostat, and unplugged the voice assistant in the nursery. For 3 days, nothing happened. By the 4th day, I had almost convinced myself it had been a glitch. A horrible one, yes, but still a glitch. Then the house began learning us. That is the only way I can explain it. It started with small things. The hallway light turned on every night at exactly the moment I stepped out of the bedroom to check on Lily. Not before. Not after. Exactly when my foot touched the landing. The thermostat warmed the kitchen just before I came down in the morning. The kettle plug switched on at 7:05 a.m., which was usually when I made tea. The voice assistant in the living room, the one we had forgotten to unplug, began saying things like, "Good morning, Emily." I had never said it to greet me by name. One afternoon, while Daniel was at work, I was feeding Lily on the sofa. Rain tapped against the windows. The village outside looked gray and empty. I remember feeling oddly peaceful. Then the voice assistant chimed. I looked over. Its ring of light glowed blue. A man's voice, not the assistant's voice, not robotic, but human, said, "You look tired today." My whole body went cold. I sat perfectly still, Lily pressed against me. The voice continued. "You should sleep when she sleeps. That's what they tell mothers, isn't it?" I couldn't move. Then Lily stirred and made a soft little sound. The voice lowered. "Hello, Lily." I stood up so quickly I nearly dropped the bottle. "Daniel?" I called, though I knew he wasn't home. The voice assistant went dark. I unplugged it with one hand while holding Lily in the other. Then I took it outside and put it in the wheelie bin. When Daniel came home, I told him everything. He didn't dismiss me. That frightened me more than if he had. He checked the router again. He checked all the connected devices. He went through the apps on both our phones. Then he sat at the kitchen table, pale and quiet. "What?" I asked. He turned his laptop towards me. There was a list of devices connected to our smart home account. Some I recognized. Thermostat, baby monitor, doorbell, living room speaker. But one device had a name I had never seen before. Observer. I stared at it. "What is that?" Daniel didn't answer immediately. "I don't know." "Can you remove it?" He clicked something. The device disappeared. For about 10 seconds, then it came back. "Observer is online." That was the first time I cried. Not loudly, not dramatically. I just sat there at the kitchen table holding Lily, tears running down my face, because the house suddenly felt contaminated. Every wall had ears. Every socket had eyes. Every soft little electronic chime felt like a throat clearing. Daniel wanted to call someone. The police, maybe. A technician. The internet provider. Anyone. But what would we say? A speaker talked to me? A thermostat changed by itself? A device called Observer appeared in our app? It sounded ridiculous. And that is one of the cruelest things about being frightened by something invisible. You start doubting your own terror because you cannot point at the monster. That night, we unplugged everything we could. The baby monitor stayed off. The voice assistants were removed. The smart plugs were switched off. Daniel even disconnected the doorbell camera. We kept Lily's cot in our bedroom. For the first time in weeks, the house was dark and quiet. At 2:13 a.m., my phone lit up. I woke instantly. A notification sat on the lock screen. Baby monitor motion detected. I stared at it, half awake, confused. The baby monitor was unplugged. I shook Daniel. He opened his eyes. What? I showed him the phone. His face changed. Don't open it, he said. But I already had. The app loaded slowly. The screen stayed black for a moment, then the night vision image appeared. It was Lily's nursery. Empty. The cot was there. The curtains were closed. The stuffed rabbit sat in the corner. The camera angle was from the shelf where the monitor used to be, but the monitor was in a drawer downstairs. Then the camera slowly turned. I screamed. Daniel grabbed the phone. On the screen, the camera panned across the nursery wall, past the wardrobe, past the rocking chair, then stopped at the door. The nursery door was open, and standing in the doorway, barely visible in the green glow, was a man, not clear enough to identify, just the shape of him. Tall, still, head slightly tilted. Daniel jumped out of bed and ran across the landing. I grabbed Lily and backed into the corner of our room. Daniel threw open the nursery door. The room was empty. I heard him moving around, opening the wardrobe, checking behind the curtains, swearing under his breath. Then his footsteps stopped. Emily, he called. His voice was wrong. I carried Lily to the nursery doorway. Daniel was standing by the shelf. On it sat the baby monitor camera, plugged in. The cable ran down the wall into the socket. I whispered, no. Daniel turned to me slowly. I put this in the kitchen drawer. I know. He touched the camera like it might bite him. The little light on the front blinked once. Then the monitor speaker crackled. The man's voice whispered, don't move my eyes. Daniel tore it from the shelf and smashed it against the floor. Again, again, again. Plastic cracked. A small lens rolled under the cot. Lily started crying. I didn't try to calm her at first because I was crying too. We left the house that night. We drove to my mother's place in Harrogate, with Lily wrapped in a blanket and no bags packed. I remember sitting in the passenger seat, staring at the dark road, expecting my phone to light up again. It did. Just as we passed the last row of village houses, a notification appeared. Front door unlocked. Daniel gripped the steering wheel. Ignore it! Another notification. Front door opened, then another. Welcome home, Emily. I turned my phone off. At my mother's house, everything felt old-fashioned and blessedly stupid. No smart lights, no smart thermostat. No voice assistant. Just lamps with switches, a heating dial on the wall, and a doorbell that made an actual ringing sound. For 2 days, we stayed there. Daniel arranged for a cybersecurity consultant to inspect our home network. His name was Peter Wallace, a quiet man in his 40s who seemed completely unsurprised by our story. That bothered me. He spent half a day at the house while we stayed away. When he called Daniel, his voice was careful. He said there had been unauthorized access to several devices. He said some of the accounts had old permissions still active. He said there may have been a compromised login from months earlier. He said the baby monitor brand we bought was not as secure as it should have been. He used calm words, compromised. Access, permissions, remote control. But all I heard was, someone had been inside my daughter's room. When Peter finished cleaning and resetting everything, he advised us to replace the router, remove the smart home system completely, and change every important password we had. Daniel asked him, could someone have physically been in the house? Peter was silent for a second too long. Then he said, I can't confirm that. That was not the answer I wanted. We returned home a week later. The house looked normal. That almost made it worse. The same little hallway, the same framed print near the stairs, the same kitchen mugs, the same baby blanket folded on the sofa. Everything ordinary, everything pretending nothing had happened. Daniel removed the smart thermostat and replaced it with a basic manual one. We threw away the baby monitor. We removed every smart plug and speaker. We even changed the locks, although part of me knew the locks were not the problem. For nearly a month, life became quiet again. Lily slept. I worked. Daniel went back to school. The village prepared for Christmas. A neighbor brought us mince pies. Frost silvered the grass every morning. I began to heal in small, cautious ways. Then, on Christmas Eve, the doorbell rang. It was 10:28 p.m. Daniel was upstairs wrapping Lily's presents. I was in the living room, sitting by the tree with the lights off, except for the glow of the fairy lights. The sound of the doorbell made me jump. Not because it was loud, because we no longer had a smart doorbell. Daniel had removed it. We had a plain brass bell now. It rang again. I stood up slowly. Daniel. He came down the stairs. The bell rang a third time. He looked through the peephole. No one. He opened the door with the chain still on. The lane outside was empty. A thin layer of frost covered the pavement. The hedges were black against the moonlight. No footprints, no parcel, no person. Daniel closed the door. Then my phone buzzed. It had been sitting on the mantelpiece. The screen showed a notification from an app I had deleted weeks earlier. Doorbell camera. Someone is at your door. I whispered, Daniel. He looked at the phone. The app opened by itself. The video feed appeared. It showed our front door from outside. But there was no camera there anymore. The image was clear. Too clear. It showed Daniel and me standing inside the hallway, staring at the phone, from the outside looking in, as if someone were standing on our doorstep, holding the camera up to the glass. Then the man's voice came through my phone speaker. Happy Christmas, Emily? The screen went black. We moved out in January. Daniel's brother helped us pack. My mother kept Lily at her house. We told the neighbors the commute had become too much. We told the landlord there had been ongoing electrical problems. We did not tell the full story, because even then, I hated how mad it sounded. Before we left, I walked through the house one final time. The rooms were empty, stripped of furniture, echoing slightly. In the nursery, pale rectangles marked where pictures had hung on the wall. The cot was gone. The shelf where the monitor had sat was bare. I stood there longer than I should have. Despite everything, part of me felt grief. This was supposed to be the room where Lily grew. The room where she learned to stand in her cot and call for me in the morning. The room where I imagined reading bedtime stories, while rain tapped gently against the window. Instead, it had become the place where a stranger whispered her name. As I turned to leave, the manual thermostat in the hallway clicked. I stopped. It was not connected to Wi-Fi. It had no app, no speaker, no account, just a simple plastic dial. The heating came on. The hallway warmed. Then, from somewhere inside the wall, so faint I almost convinced myself it was the pipes, a voice whispered, "Cold little Lily." I ran. I did not lock the door behind me. We live in a different house now, outside Ripon. It is older, smaller, and almost aggressively ordinary. The lights have switches. The heating has a dial. The baby monitor is audio only, and does not connect to the internet. We do not own voice assistants. We do not use indoor cameras. Daniel says we are safe now. Most days, I believe him, but sometimes, usually late at night, I still wake at 2:13 a.m. with the feeling that something has just clicked. I lie there in the dark, listening to the old house creak around us. No glowing screens, no notifications, no camera lights, just silence. Then I look at Lily sleeping beside me on the monitor, just a grainy little sound-only box on the bedside table. And I wonder how many people are sleeping peacefully in their smart homes tonight, trusting the cameras, the locks, the thermostats, the baby monitors, trusting the tiny lights blinking in the dark, believing that no one can come in because the doors are locked, believing that danger still needs a body. But I know better now. Sometimes the intruder is not outside the house. Sometimes he is already inside. And sometimes he knows your child's name before you ever hear his.